Good evening. Thank you all for joining me for Bedtime Bible Stories. As always, if there's anything you need, please get hold of us. And if you have any prayer requests, please send them to Tina. Outside of that, I think we should start with, the most exciting part of what I do, which is my weekly math dad joke. So here we go for our weekly math dad joke. Do you know why no one talks to circles? Why, you ask? Because they're pointless. Yeah, I can hear the groans coming on in already. All right, so we are actually done with the book of Genesis. You all should give yourself like a round of applause for that one. See, now that pun was absolutely free. And we're moving on to the book of Exodus. So here we go. Joseph and his brothers grew old and passed away, but their children's children stayed on in Egypt, where they became a very large family. Later on, a new king began to rule, but this Pharaoh didn't remember Joseph and didn't like God's people. He had made them into slaves and made them work harder and harder and harder. God's people cried out to God to rescue them, and God heard them. He remembered his promise to Abraham. He would look after his people. He would find ways to set them free. One day, Moses was looking after the sheep when something caught his eye. A bush, behaving very oddly. It was flickering with flames, but its leaves weren't burning up. He looked a closer look at it. "Moses!" boomed a big voice. Moses leapt back. The bush was talking to him? "I have heard my people's cries," God said. "I have seen their tears, so I have come down to rescue them. Go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go." Moses was afraid, but God said, "I will be with you." So Moses went to Pharaoh. "Pharaoh," Moses began, "God says." "God?" said Pharaoh. "Never heard of him." Moses kept going. "God says, let his people go free." "Why should I?" Pharaoh said. "Don't wanna." And so he didn't. So God gave Pharaoh some warnings. First, God made frogs come hopping and leaping and jumping. In your bed frogs, in your hair frogs, in your soup frogs, all over everywhere frogs made them go away. Pharaoh screamed, "Then your people can go." So God took the frogs away. But Pharaoh changed his mind. "You can't go," he said. Then God sent zillions of gnats. But still Pharaoh said no. So God then sent swarms of flies buzzing everywhere. And when God was done with all these warnings, Pharaoh cried, "Get out! Just go already." And so, that very night that Pharaoh cried out, Moses and God's people fled out of Egypt, out of slavery. They were free at last. God's people would always remember this great rescue and call it Passover. But an even greater rescue was coming. Many years later, God was going to do it again. He was going to come down once more to rescue his people. But this time, God was going to set them free forever and ever. The end. I hope you guys sleep well tonight and stay rested for each and every day and all the fun and whatever else it might bring you. Know that God is with you. Know that you are loved. And know that while you sleep, God is always out there keeping you safe. God bless until next time with another installment of Bedtime Bible Stories. Bye!